Hello, and welcome to Monday Mug Mentions week number 8. This is a segment where I chat about things in the tabletop industry that interest me over the course of a cup of coffee. We did it. We got through the intro without a mistake. That is it. It only took 8 weeks. We finally figured out how to say the intro without a mistake after 8 weeks. All right. You're right, Zach. It must be Monday. Thank you for joining me. Welcome. Welcome, Nick and Jennifer. Good to see y'all. I am enjoying a wonderful cup of coffee here from my good friend Gil Mello, who sent me this coffee. So let's go ahead and let's do a couple of things. First, we're going to put up our coffee contribution from Gil Mello. Thank you again, Gil. I really appreciate it. I see you've joined. Welcome. I'm about to take my first sip, so we'll find out how I like it in a second here. Hello, Clinton. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. All right, let's take a look here. Let's put the coffee up. So Gil sent me a couple types of coffee, so he'll have his name up here for a couple weeks probably, or different weeks maybe. We'll see. But he sent me some Tanzania Fair Trade coffee. This is their dark roast. It smells delicious. When I opened the bag, it smelled delicious. Jennifer, hello. Is it just your volume that's low? No, it's possible that my setup is a little low right now. This is definitely new. I changed some things. I can probably change that around a little bit, but I'll have to deal with it next time most likely. Let's see here. You know what? I think I can fix it right here. Let's look on the line one mic. Does that bring me up a little bit? There we go. That should bring me up a little bit. There we go. I see my levels coming up. Do you hear me? Excellent. All right. We'll hope that fixes it. It's probably only one side as well. Unfortunately, I am going to look and see if there's mono or dual coming out. So we'll get that fixed up. But thank you guys for joining me. So I hope I like it too. Let's find out. Oh my goodness, Gil. This is fantastic coffee. Oh, wow. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. So, Gil, I appreciate this. This is a really, really. As soon as I opened up the bag, my whole kitchen started to smell like this coffee. This is really, really good stuff. I'm very, very much so enjoying it. All right, great. I'm glad that you guys can hear me. You can hear me on both sides. That's fantastic. That makes me feel better now. All right. So, here we go. Wow, thanks again, Gil. That was very kind of you. I appreciate the coffee. Gil sent me two kinds. You guys will have to wait until another week to find out what the other one is. It is also a fair trade, and it also looks delicious. So thank you so much, Gil. This is such a nice treat to have you send me this. I really, really do appreciate it. I can't stop drinking the coffee. It's so good. It is really, really good. This is tasty, man. Thank you again. I can't say thank you enough. All right, so Tanzania Fair Trade Coffee Dark Roast from Gil Mello. Again, thank you, Gil. You guys should check this coffee out. It's really, really good. It's really tasty. So this week I want to talk about a few things. Mechanism-wise, I want to talk about something that kind of struck me as a really, really fun deal. Hello to David, John, Andrew, Mark. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining this afternoon. It's really nice to see you all. Really appreciate you guys joining and popping in. So the tabletop mechanism I want to talk about this week is Dice Forge. I don't know if anybody has played Dice Forge, but and I'm not going to. I believe most likely that this is pronounced Reggie Bonasse, but that's just a guess. I believe that Reggie is French. I've never met him before. I've not had the pleasure. So he designed the game. It's been published by a whole lot of people, including Asmodee, which probably owns the other companies that published it at this point. Who knows? But regardless, Dice Forge is really fun. You take these little sides of dice off and actually build your dice into a better die that you're rolling over and over again. And the cool thing is you all roll your dice together. So you're sitting there and you're rolling and you're rolling. Everybody's turn, you roll. So you're gaining all these different resources, and then you buy new sides of your dice to upgrade them. It's a very satisfying engine builder with dice. It's really, really quite accessible in terms of not having a lot of overhead. You can see the icons on the side of the dice are very simple. I think it's sitting right above my thumb, right there. That right there, that little let's move it there. That one. That is Dice Forge on my deal right there. That one right there. So it's a lot of fun. It's simple. It's not really very difficult. I think they're adding in some expansions that'll make it a little more difficult. But what I really, really enjoy about Dice Forge is the satisfying portion of like popping off a 1 gold piece and putting on a 3 gold piece as one of the sides of your die. I mean, you're literally upgrading the actual dice itself. Each die itself, and that's just there's something different and new and unique about that. There's a game coming out called Kapow that is going to do something similar and maybe have a little bit more skill basis to it, and I'm looking forward to that as well. But the aspect of Dice Forge that really, really gets me is the engine building. Is most people think that they're just sort of, I'm getting a better side of each die. You can build an engine. This is great coffee. Thanks again, Gil. So you can build an engine that just pumps out mostly one or the other type of good, or you can build an engine that pumps out a ton of gold. And I really, really enjoy that you can build this engine out of dice, and it seems relatively simple. And you don't really, most of the time, newer players that have not played engine builders or don't generally. I'm actually going to turn something off. Give me a moment. So yes, it clicks easily. Gil asked about how the components and how they work. What's also neat is you can use the other sides to pop the sides out. So each piece can be used to sort of work the other pieces out. It's really a neat system, and it doesn't hurt your fingernails or anything like that to get the die out, or the sides out. So crafting dice instead of Mystic Vale card crafting, Mark says. Exactly, and I really think this is a more elegant solution than the card crafting because of the way that those sleeves work and the way that they've got to be. If you lose one or two of them or if they break, it becomes a little bit of an issue with the Mystic Vale setup, whereas with the dice, I mean, it's very hard to. These are plastic. It's hard plastic. It's not gonna see. So you stop talking about that, Zach, until I get that done. Zach just mentioned something that is a secret project that I'm currently working on right now, as a matter of fact, and I'm trying to see if it's viable in terms of the manufacturing. But Zach just asked if we would ever see the spinner crafting, and that is something that I would love to implement into a game. Is crafting spinners based on, so you can upgrade your spinner, and every time you flick, you've got better odds of what you'll get. And yes, absolutely. I think we'll absolutely see it because I'm working on making it happen in a game that we're working on right now. I think it would be perfect. Two friends of mine are launching their Kickstarter campaign in about a week, or on the 24th, and they used to have a spinner, and people convinced them to put a die. And I really wish they would have kept that spinner. It was one of my favorite parts of the game, was flicking the spinner and seeing which way the wind went. And now they've gotten a die because so many people didn't like the spinner idea. And I said, no, embrace the spinner. Make the best spinner you can possibly make. I want spinners back in it. I don't think people realize how good they are. That's so fun to flick a thing and watch it go and end up somewhere, especially if it's a good spinner with ball bearings and things like that, right? And then what we're going to do is you'll have a spinner crafter. You pick up the ball bearing in the spinner and you put in a better piece of the pie, and now you're going to have a better potential to get whatever the thing is that we're working on. So I really, really, and I was talking about Fire Tower, Mark. That's fantastic. I'm glad that you got it from there. Fire Tower has moved to a dice instead of the spinner, and I really wish they would have kept that spinner. I really loved it. And that's exactly, as long as the spinner is well made, I think you really have to make sure you put some money into the spinner, the R&D that goes into making sure that it stays. I mean, have a robot sit there and flick it 10,000 times to see how long it takes before the thing wears out. Whatever it takes to make spinners really good, you've got to do that. But they're fun. They're so fun. It's so fun to flick a spinner. I don't know anybody who, after playing Fireball Island the other day and just seeing the base bones fun of like old school stuff, I kind of really am coming away from this. You've got to have this structured, this is what's good in games and this is what's bad in games. Nah, go silly and make it fun, and sometimes people will remember how fun something like that can be. So that's what I really like in that. But anyway, speaking of engine buildings and spinner buildings, I would really, really love to share with you what we're working on there, but that one may be IP based, so I've got to wait and hold my cards close to the chest. We've got quite a few video game based IPs that we're currently working on, a few that are secured, one that is still in flux, but I'm really excited about those. They're going to be a lot of fun. We got some really cool games coming in the next couple years here. So, speaking of video games, the video game I want to talk about this week is Stellaris by Paradox Interactive. They do all sorts of stuff that's, these big sort of RTS types and Civilization type building games, but I really enjoy Stellaris because it is an engine builder at heart that takes hours and hours and hours. So, you've got to pick sort of, are you going to be diplomacy, war style, whatever the case may be, and there's nothing super And I'm sorry if you guys hear the rain. It is pouring rain here in Rhode Island. I know that the spring has started, but nobody's told our weather yet. So anyway, the Stellaris does something interesting in that whenever I feel like I'm exploring different planets, I'm really seeing different ones. And if I built my engine to be more warlike, then I feel like when I go into a new planet, I maybe say something along the lines of, well, could I take this over with power or force? And if diplomacy is the way I've gone, I say, well, what's the best way to talk these people into being sort of part of my civilization? So you build your engine and it sort of dictates what you do. I feel like that's similar in Dice Forge, like I was just mentioning, is that you'll build your engine. Hey, Steve, good to see you. Ian, good to see you. Ian Moss, very, very awesome. Mr. Ian Moss, congratulations on how well Duelosaur Island is doing. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. I cannot wait to get my copy. So, yeah, Stellaris just, it sort of, your engine that you build crafts your experience, and I really like that. It's sort of the same thing with Dice Forge. When you build a bunch of money onto the sides of your die, the experience you're going to have is buying more expensive things. Whereas if you craft mostly moon or sun power onto your die, then your experience is going to be based on those things. And again, so that's a smaller sort of engine driving your narrative. But I like that. I think that's a really, really cool thing that games can do to say, well, if you've built to be a warlike society, then when you go in to greet another society, it's going to be a conflict. It's not going to be a diplomatic encounter. And I think that's something you should definitely consider as a designer at all times is what is this going to, what is the narrative going to send my players into their interactions feeling as if I were a this or that. Like if I feel like I'm a super powerful war mogul, then when I go into another place, I should feel like I should be able to take it over. Whereas if I feel like I'm a diplomatic, socialite who can figure out how to charm my way into these different civilizations or into them following me, then that's a completely different experience that you want to craft for that player. Now, I think what's incredible is that some of these games like Stellaris have both of those in one game. Like both those experiences exist depending on which way you build your engine, and that's really incredible. And the more that board games do things like that, where you use narrative, but maybe even narrative and asymmetry to drive your players to do things based on how they've built their engine or their civilization. So if I've built my civilization to be diplomatic, when I show up to a new location or a new civilization, if I'm diplomatic, I don't want to be forced to go into a wartime. I don't want to be forced to fight someone. I would want them to have to be forced to have discourse with me. And if I have more wit or whatever the case may be, then I should be able to talk them into using their now war force to join me, and maybe that brings things up. But again, those sorts of asymmetry are seemingly becoming more common in game design, more understood that it's fun. And that if you build an engine, you can sort of build it towards what you want the player to do. You can direct the player via just the things that are more easily accessible because they've done something a certain way. So, for instance, in Stellaris, you definitely get bonuses for diplomacy as you do more diplomacy things. It's going to be easier for you to operate in that space. And that's what's important, is making it easier for that player to operate in that space of whatever the narrative you want to drive is. And then from there, it's a natural progression versus trying to force somebody, say, okay, well, in this step we do war, in this step we do diplomacy, in this step we do the next. Instead of compartmentalizing it, maybe make it based on what your civilization or tribe does. So lots of new joins. Hello, John, Bill, BJ, Clinton. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining me for a cup of coffee. Again, this is the Tanzania dark roast that Gil sent, and it is delicious. I'm halfway done with this cup of coffee already. It's so good. I really, really appreciate that. I think Stellaris is PC only. Mark Burks asked if it's on any other platforms or if it's PC only. I do believe it is PC only. It's a pretty massive game. I'm not sure you'd want to navigate it without a mouse and a keyboard. There's a ton to do and a lot of little, macro type things. It's a real-time strategy game at heart, by all means. So, All right, so let's get into media this week. Hello, Gwen. By the way, I wanted to mention that I was just talking about spinner builders and Fire Tower and how I really wish that it had a spinner option, but I know that why you guys went to the die, and that makes total sense. But I did want to say hello and that we were talking about Fire Tower, which I'm excited for the launch on the 24th of. I've been seeing Fire Tower for almost 2 years. We were in Connecticut Festival of Indie Games at the same time with Record, and I cannot wait for this game to kick. It's going to be so fun. You guys definitely should check that one out. All right, so let's go right into the media. The media I want to talk about this week is Michael Wright's Unfiltered Gamer, and Michael Wright and also Callie Welsh is a big part of it. Michael's partner is Callie, and they are both very talented at putting together content about board games. They actually did a video for Record for us early on. He contacted me and said, "Wow, this game rocks! No pun intended. It looks very cool." And I said, "No, I love puns. Don't worry about it. If you know me, it's totally a pun thing for me." So Michael did an awesome video where they played Record, and I got to watch that live. And it was nice to see people across the country playing your game live and getting to say, "Oh no, you do this way." And it actually informed the rule book a little bit. It helped me to find some different areas where I'd clearly not explained things as well as we should have. So that was a nice video to watch. But I've learned like 12 or 13 games from Michael's videos. I've watched a video and just watched them play and gone, "Oh, that's how that works." I learned Happy Salmon from Michael Wright's videos. I mean, it's the thing is he always has a good group of people with him playing in his studio. They always have a good time. They're always engaged. They're smiling. They're having fun because I think they genuinely enjoy playing the games. And I really like watching media where groups of people genuinely enjoy playing the games. And I met Callie and Michael at PAX South in San Antonio. And they were awesome. Very, very cool people, very friendly, very likable. I have nothing but good things to say about them. So it was, if you don't watch his media, you should definitely check it out. He'll get through like 4 games in one sitting. Like they'll sit there and they'll play 3 or 4 games, or they'll do a quick run of a game and then do a few more. And I really like how much video content you get from just one single video. How much game content you get from one video. There's just multiple games that all come into play. So I really, really enjoy that. So if you guys haven't checked it out, they're on Facebook, YouTube, and I think they've got a website as well, but it's Unfiltered Gamer. Michael Wright is a very, very sweet, cool dude. I really appreciate getting to work with him on Record and all that sort of good stuff too. So, all right. And now we will move on to the marketing. And this is this is tricky. It seems like it's always tricky lately when I talk about marketing because we're talking about stuff that we do or that we don't do. But the marketing aspect I want to talk about this week is Kickstarter creators and cold calling per se. And what does cold calling mean when I'm talking about what does cold calling mean when I'm talking about Kickstarter creators, right? Well, all right. I'm not going to out the person. I'm just going to give you a synopsis of a message I received while at PAX East. So I was at PAX East a couple weekends ago, and I was working. I was busy. I had meetings most of the weekend. Many of my meetings were set up through Facebook Messenger, which already, first of all, don't set your meetings through Facebook Messenger or set them through an email as well so people can put them on their Google Calendar more easily. I decided for the weekend I'll put my Facebook Messenger notifications on because so many people wanted to contact us that way. So I had them on, and during a meeting with a very important video game developer, I get 3 buzzes, bzz, 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 and I think, well, am I missing another meeting I'm supposed to be at, or what's going on? It is a Kickstarter creator sending me a message saying, "Hey, how's it going? Here's the link for my Kickstarter. We would really appreciate you backing today when we launch at X amount of time." In brief, that was it. This was the first communication this person had ever had with me. This is the first time they'd ever sent me a message whatsoever. I'd never talked to them whatsoever before then. They'd never even so much as said, "Hey, my name is X. Nice to meet you, Marshall. I'm a really big fan of your games," or X or Y or Z. They just sent, "Bleh, here's a bunch of this stuff," which is why I generally don't accept people who I don't know. I had met this person at some point at a convention, at least briefly, to say hello or face-to-face. But yeah, it was very frustrating. And I sent back something that I learned from Peter Hayward, who posted publicly that he did this recently. And I just sent back, "Listen, this is wrong. spam, and it's wrong to do this. There's a right way to do this, and this is definitely not it. You've really soured my first impression of you by just sort of going, here's my stuff, look at it, please. I mean, that's essentially the if you walked up to someone in person, it would be the equivalent of saying, hey, I've got a product, would you like to buy it right now? This is where it is, here's where you can get it. Rather than saying, hi, my name's Marshall, nice to meet you. What are your interests? What do you like to do? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you're a video game or board game fan. Guess what? I make games. That's something that you might also, would you like to see the thing? I mean, again, you're a person. You're a human being. You want to talk to other human beings as though they're human beings. I'm not your product. I'm not your outlet to simply just go, here's my thing, buy it, goodbye. That was so annoying, and so much so that I have not quite blocked the person. They apologized immediately when I said that it was wrong. They did not say, how would I go about doing this, which is why I'm talking about this. I normally wouldn't chastise or criticize what people do for marketing, but if you're sending people like bare messages as a Kickstarter creator, stop. If you are cold calling other creators or other publishers, stop. It is bad form. It looks bad. It brings your product down. It lowers the value of your stock in many ways. As a person who's now gotten a bunch of them, I didn't used to. I saw my friends get upset about them. I kind of went, well, why? I don't really. Now I totally get it when it's actually affected things that I'm trying to work on. Right. When I'm in the middle of a meeting and I got those, it was very frustrating. But it was also. It's rude. It's rude to send someone a message and not introduce yourself and not say hello. You'd never do it in real life. You'd never walk up to somebody and just go, would you like to buy my product? Without introducing yourself and saying, hi, how are you? So on Facebook or on an email or on a Kickstarter message, send a creator or a person, anyone you talk to, send them, hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm interested in what you do. Yanaguana Games is potentially something that's interesting to me. Record was a really cool project. I just wanted to let you know I'm getting ready to launch my own, and I'd love to have some support of someone who had such a cool project or something like that. Guess what? It works really, really well. I sent a message out to Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. We'd met him once in Austin. Andrew actually went up to get his game signed. I didn't get to meet him. I'd already moved, I think, to Rhode Island or was unable to go to Austin. But Andrew went up and met Jamie and gave him a copy of our game, Stir Fry 18, and said, hey, we're really big fans of Scythe. We're huge fans. We think that most of your games are really cool. Nice to meet you. That's it. Andrew dropped off a copy just to get his game signed and then said, I have to leave. He wanted to play a game with Jamie, but he couldn't. He had to leave. 2.5 to 3 years later, I sent Jamie a message saying, hey, Andrew and I just launched Record for the second time. We are big fans. I just wanted you to maybe take a peek at the page for me and maybe let me know your thoughts on it. I appreciate any input you can give. Within 10 minutes, Jamie sent back a message or something that said along the lines of, Andrew is a very genuine guy. I remember meeting him in Austin. I'm not a big music fan in terms of playing instruments, but it's very, very amazing that you reminded me of this, because now I have a face to put to this project, and I would love to help you and give you some support. And he looked at the project and of course gave us his thoughts, and ultimately I believe Jamie's a backer of the project, which also brings, of course, an influx of people who are then interested in the project and give you visibility. So this is a matter of how you engage is very important. How you talk to people is very important. How you spend your time engaging with other creators is very important. And if you continually do things like spam other creators, they're going to block you and you're going to lose those industry connections. If you're genuine and you actually say, I just appreciate your input, I really, really think the things that you have to say are important, then you're going to have a lot better time, and you're actually usually going to have potentially some new customers out of other publishers. I back a lot of games. If you go follow what I do on Kickstarter, I back a lot of stuff. That is 10% of what other backers like James Hudson and Jamie and those guys do, John Gilmore. Those guys back an unbelievable amount of games. So when you're thinking about how you engage other Kickstarter creators or other publishers, make sure that you know who you're talking to. Make sure that you introduce yourself. Make sure that you're polite. Make sure that you're not overstepping. Make sure that you're not demanding. Make sure that you're not being a used car salesman. No offense to used car salesmen. I mean, just don't do the thing where it's I'm going to get in your face with the product. I'm going to pressure you into purchasing it. If you don't, I'm not going to speak to you anymore, which is something that's a very, very quick way to create a bad reputation in the industry. So, and I've definitely not been a person who does that. I don't think it's ever been in my nature to be money driven or to say like, oh, we've got to get more people on board with this. I would rather just be able to connect with people, and I think that the more you do that naturally, you're going to have a better time. So, yeah, that tends to be the way I feel about it. If there's any questions about that, or if I've lost any sort of connection on here because the comments sort of died out due to the rain, I definitely apologize, but I'll be able to post this back up on YouTube in a short amount of time. So, once again, I really appreciate, Gil, the cup of coffee. And thank you guys for joining me to talk about a couple of different games and Unfiltered Gamer and cold calling from Kickstarter creators, which is a very interesting new trend that's new to me, that I would say don't do it. And if you're going to cold call, you need to warm someone up first and say, hello, how are you? Know their product, know their game potentially. If they're just a regular blank customer, you need to find a way to engage them that's better than here's my link. Again, if they're not part of your email list and all that kind of stuff, then maybe find a way to engage them so that they will be. But it's definitely something to be aware of as a creator, and it's definitely something to sort of watch out for, because you don't want to get that reputation of being someone who just sends links around and doesn't ever actually help or engage or do anything for this community. It is a community. It is a family. Your customers are family. They're not just customers. So, and it really is something that is genuine to this industry. There are others where there are families for sure. But most fans of Yanaguana have spoken to me or sent me a message or said something to me, or at least engaged with us in some way, which is really cool. Whereas I know there's some much bigger companies where that's just probably not possible, or maybe there's just not a face on the company where you can do that. So it's interesting to me to see the different dichotomies there. So Ian said, I agree with all you said. I've had a strange influx of friend requests recently, and now that I exist in the board game world. And that's very true. Most people have been genuine and just want to connect. Some immediately invited me to like the page, and that's a no-go. Yep. So I've recently had about 30 to 40 people in the last 2 or 3 days for some reason add me on Facebook. Usually that happens like right after PAX. There was a big influx, and I'm used to that. This must have been either a syndication of like the Board Game Design Lab podcast, or that just came up again. That usually tends to be one of the reasons it happens. Or some marketing thing we did hit somewhere, and folks come in and send me some invites. But I've had, I would say, a good 30 or 40% that are definitely not genuine accounts. They're definitely bots. You can tell if you just scroll through their, sort of history, and it doesn't have, it has just a bunch of changed profile pictures of different people or something like that. You can mark those as spam. I generally do, and I won't add that type of person. But I don't really have time to keep up with that all the time. So, most of the time, if I haven't met you, I won't add you unless you're, just likes, we have multiple friends, and we all know that. But some of these were very strange. Even they had multiple friends who had clearly just added them, and they were clearly bot accounts. So and Ian said, right, this last week was more than when the Kickstarter launched. Yeah, this last week there was a huge influx of invites. I think there's some bot driven, and then I think there's some maybe from I really don't know. Maybe there's new influx of members in these board game groups that we're all part of and we engage in. I'm very vocal. I talk on them. I'm usually able to give some advice that I feel is at least somewhat equitable for the people that are just starting out in the industry, and that's kind of what my goal is when I'm talking in these threads. I also generally try to sort of, without being mean or rude or anything, I try to sort of shut down some of the bad advice that's being given out, because there is some really bad advice that's in these threads or sort of echoes through the threads. Things like create a sell sheet and all that. Now, create a pitch document, which is a totally different thing, which was just talked about at PAX East, but Yeah, do a pitch document. Matt Fantastic and Alex Cutler can teach you how to do stuff like that. But I mean, just you need what the game's about. You don't need a bunch of graphics and flowers on the edge of the page or any of that stuff. As a publisher, I'd rather just find out what does your game do. What does it do differently than other games, right? So a lot of people will say, "Oh, make a pretty sell sheet that you can send around to all the publishers," and maybe some publishers enjoy that, but it's just a lot don't. So there's a lot of things that are parroted a little bit, and I try to say, hey, that may not be the best or the most updated way to approach that. So, and then Jason Greeno said, I wonder what a bot account has to gain. Well, I can think of many things. I'm not going to go into it, but AI can do a whole lot. AI can do a whole lot. I think, I'm not, politically it can do things marketing wise. It can do things, all sorts of stuff. And we've seen the ramifications of what bot accounts and AI accounts can do in the last few years here. And it's something to be very aware of. And you should definitely check to make sure someone's not a bot. And if you see that it is a bot or it's definitely not human interactions that profile is having, mark it as spam. I mean, that's, it's sort of something we should definitely do in our communities to keep those bots out of it. One of the main reasons being is because that they can eventually, sort of ruin communities by becoming marketing devices that spam out a bunch of videos or different things like that, or as we've seen in other ones, horrible pictures or things like that. So, BGG used to have a terrible issue where now they've got to verify every single post that goes through, which makes it a very, very difficult thread to use on Facebook. So there's certain ones that have been inundated with them to the point where it makes it harder to use. That's why I would say so. So thank you. Yeah, I like my mug this week too. This is my Stormtroopers on the Side mug, and I also have a new mug on its way in, coming in this week, that's got some more of my favorite characters on it. So I really appreciate you guys checking it out this week. This was a really fun one. I love talking about games like Dice Forge and Stellaris. Dice Forge, I think now that I talked about it, I'm going to try my best to play that game potentially tonight. Take it up to the game room where I play if I get time to go. I've got so much work to do. So, Jennifer said you like the mug this week. Thank you. Mark said I'm craving some Tanzania dark roast for some reason. I wonder why. Thanks again for joining me. You guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you on Monday of next week. We are off to some baby doctor's appointments, so we're going to go see, and Corbin should be here in a couple weeks. So I am getting ready for this baby to get here. We're going to have fun. Y'all have a wonderful week, and we will see you soon. Thank you again for joining me. Bye-bye.